After I finished the duets albums, there was so much research involved in those records, and even though he was 78 years old at the time, I mean, to be around him and to be around that music as much, as extensively as I was, I mean, the albums took 6-8 months to actually finish. And you know, I saw him perform live a few times because at that point in his career, he was singing certain songs and others he was not. So we didn't want to do any songs that he wasn't currently comfortable with. But I just got a case of the Sinatra fever. I mean, to see him perform, even at that stage in his life, was incredibly exciting. And the songs, I kind of, and the arrangements are really, to me anyway, a huge part of American popular culture of the 20th century, without question. I mean, he sang every great popular song that was ever written. And some a lot more than once. He sang some in the 40s, and he made records of them in the 50s, and he made another record in the 70s, so with different arrangements. So he approached popular songs like a symphony conductor would approach the repertoire of classical music. He approached it exactly the same way. And he was I don't think there's anybody who would disagree that he was the premier interpreter of American popular song. So, stimulated by the experience with him and being around the music and all that, I wanted to do a little bit of just a personal tribute to not only him, but the arrangers and the songwriters that were involved in his whole recording career. So essentially what I decided to do was feature every instrument in the band, because the songs are meant to really be sung, and I didn't want to do, you know, arrangements that got away from the melodies that much. I mean, the whole idea of the songs is that they're great songs, and so I didn't want to do, you know, hot big band charts that just strayed away from the melody that much. And so I thought, what better way to feature the melody than to have a soloist on each song, but a different one. So literally everybody in the band was featured on one song, and including the bass trombone played a solo on Saturday Night is the Loneliest Night. So, and the drums, and you know, everybody. So that was the first idea. The second idea was to do a big band form album, essentially with an 18-piece big band, because not only do I love that kind of sound, but he did. And it was so much a part of everything he did. I mean, from his start in 1942 with Tommy Dorsey, all the way through his career, through the years where he used Count Basie and so forth, he loved this big band sound. And so I thought that's just the perfect way to do this, is to use a big band. Recording it essentially was just, was after I wrote all the arrangements, was trying to find the best soloists we could. And we were very fortunate to get some of the best instrumental soloists of the day. I mean, we had some serious heavyweights on Sinatraland, including David Sanborn and Tom Scott and Hubert Laws and all these great musicians. And so that was, you know, incredibly fortunate. Big fan of them. I mean, I knew all of them, and I certainly knew, some of them I knew really well for years, but others I knew through their more recordings and their careers. I met him very briefly in the early 80s. It was so quick that he would never remember. But there was a very strange, very strange call I got from Bill Miller. And Bill was his pianist for 40 years. And they called Bill Sunshine because he never got out in it. You know, he was like the whitest guy. White hair, white. Anyway, Bill called and he said, "The old man," that's what they called him. "The old man is thinking about the possibility of doing another album." Well, this is in the mid '80s, and you know, he was getting up there. So he said, I want you to write a couple of arrangements. And he said, I want you to write an arrangement of that September song, you know. Frank wants to do that September song. He said, make it in D flat, 2-beat, modulated at the end. Those are my walking instructions. I said, yeah, okay, D flat, 2-beat, right? I said, which September song? He said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, there's 2 or 3 of them. There's September in the Rain, there's, you know. And he says, he didn't say that. He just said that September song. So I said, I think he probably means September in the Rain. And he says, yeah, well, go ahead and write that. So I wrote that arrangement. Then I wrote a couple of ballads and all. Sent them off to be copied, and never heard another word about it. And we never heard anything from Bill. I didn't hear it from anybody. And so I don't know what happened. And then I got a nice card from Jim Hewart, who was the bass player, one great bass player. And Jim was on the road with him. And they happened to be in Italy, and Jim sent me a postcard and said, boy, those arrangements sound great. Frank is singing them every night. I didn't know. And I had no idea what had happened. They just went off to Arranger Heaven. I'll give you an insight about what Sinatra was about. When we had dinner after the recording sessions of duets, we went out to dinner. And there were 3 or 4 of us and Sinatra. Unfortunately, he was in a good mood because he liked the way things were going. But you would order a drink before dinner, you know. We record from 6 to 9 and then we go to the restaurant. So it's about 9:30 at night. An Italian restaurant, naturally. And you'd order a drink, and you'd order one he didn't ask you if you wanted one. You ordered one. And he ordered one. And there was a toast. And sitting there at the table was, you know, Phil Ramone, the producer, Al Schmidt, the engineer, myself, Hank Catania, the producer, Sinatra. And so we were all people who had been working on this project with him that day. And he raises his glass of Jack Daniels, and he says, to us, we are the best. So that gives you a little idea about where he was coming from. He wasn't interested in being second. And I just thought, if we're going to do this, we got to get the best. I mean, that's the only way to do a project in or around Frank Sinatra is to do it